Dude, I don't even care. I've got wet hair, my clutter in the background. A verdict is in. A verdict is in. This is not a test. The verdict is in. The verdict is in. Oh my God. 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 Oh my God.
A car wreck or whatever the issue, or they talk to somebody about the case. They're the one you're counting on to be there for you, and to lose that person, which has happened to me, is crushing. I believe they're going to be your champion in the jury.
Oh my God.
Bob, I was relaying your question to Chris. He's surprised by this.
Well, it was actually, Chris will be even more, 2 hours and 50 minutes. It's even shorter than that. But I'm just curious right now whether Chris or Antoinette, what are your, tell me, if you don't mind the audience, what led up to everything was going on? What's the vibe there? I know you were running around trying to find this information out. Is ammonium there or what?
It's really not, Bob. Shockingly so. I actually ran back to the hotel and I hesitated. But I needed to get my jacket. I was chilly. I just couldn't take it anymore. And it's 5 minutes down the road. I thought no big deal. I came walking back, saw some activity that looked a little suspicious to me, and poking around. And I've covered enough verdicts. Something's going on. It always gives the vibe, right? They don't always vibe that the verdict is in, or there's no rushing. They know what they're doing. They're not scurrying around. They've been doing this trial for 6 weeks. They don't need to, get all nervous about doing anything. And Alec Murdaugh has been inside in cell the entire time throughout the deliberations. So I kind of started poking around, trying to be coy with revealing whether or not they're or a question. I ran into the courthouse and I was told that they asked the jurors, "Do you need to order dinner?" And they said, "No, we'll be ready in 10 minutes."
Wow.
That's what I heard happened. So no dinner for the jurors. They are, I guess, not costing the taxpayers of Colleton County any more meals. So there you have it. No dinner for the jurors. They were ready to wrap it up.
I don't think you guys.
I was somewhat surprised only because I felt like looking at these jurors today, and I hate reading people's faces. Some of them were wearing COVID masks. We had the juror we think the defense liked, getting kicked off the jury, taking her dozen eggs and her belongings with her. And I was looking at them and they were paying attention to both sides. There were a couple that would at points go, like this, like enough already, I'm done. And we know they asked for a monitor, of course. They want to look at exhibits, possibly. Maybe there were a couple of points of contention or argument.
Right? They should have at least
it's very interesting. And, I've been saying for a long time, I don't think, or at least a couple of...
Okay. Oh, my God. The judges... I know it probably seems silly. I don't know these people. But I've encountered people like them.
And if there is a verdict, you may bring the...
Holy shit. Oh. Thank you, Mandy Matney. Thank you. I don't care what people say about you. Thank you. Sorry, I got out of the shower. I don't even know if I have a bra on. You're looking for that information. I've been following him stuttering since 2021. Mandy had forever. I tried to make everybody and their brother around here pay attention, especially since some people were racist, whatever. Again, I don't know any of these people directly. I'm shaking.
Thank you. If you'll stand for me.
Oh my God.
Have you reached a verdict?
Yes, sir, we have.
Unanimous.
Yes, sir, it is.
All right, if you will pass it up, clerk will pass it to me. And you may be seated.
I would share this. I want to tag Stacy, but I'm afraid I'll lose it. If somebody could tag like Stacy and Stina Marie.
Defendant will rise. Madam Clerk, you may publish the verdict, starting with the back, not with the, tell you again. Starting with, flipping them over one by one.
Docket number 2022 GS 15-00592, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions in the term of 2022, the State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-000, CDR Code 0116. Verdict. Signed by the forelady, 3/2/23. 2022-GS-15-00593, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, in the Court of General Sessions, the term of 2022. The State versus Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for murder, SC Code 16-3-000, CDR Code 0116, verdict guilty, signed by the lady, date 3/2/23. Docket number 2002-GS-15-00595, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant, indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. Code -16-23-0490, CDR Code 0549, verdict guilty. Docket number 2022 GS-15-00594, the State of South Carolina, County of Colleton, Court of General Sessions, July term 2022. The State versus Richard Alexander Murdaugh, defendant. Indictment for possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. SC Code 15-3-0490, CR Code 0549, verdict guilty. Signed by the foreperson of the juror, 3/2/23.
Madam Forelady and members of the jury, if that is the verdict of each and every juror, please let it be known by raising your right hands. All right, thank you. Any individual polling requested? Madam Clerk, you'll need to individually poll the jury according to their juror numbers.
Number 193. Was this verdict?
Yes,
Is it still your verdict?
yes.
Juror 254, Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
326. Was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 6, Juror 50. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 544.
Yes.
Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 572. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 578. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 59. Was it? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 630. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 729. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 826. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Juror 864. Was this your verdict? Is it still your verdict?
Yes.
Your Honor, the jury has been polled.
Thank you. The jury has been polled and the verdict is a unanimous verdict. You will bring the alternate juror out and have her have a seat in the audience. You can stand there or you can sit back there, whatever you prefer. Okay. Are there any post-trial motions?
None from the state, Your Honor.
We would just renew our previously argued motions for a directed verdict, and at this, on the grounds, on those grounds, we would make a motion for a mistrial and to set aside the verdict.
By the state, response.
Your Honor, based on our previous arguments, we would submit that the case properly went to the jury and the verdict is proper, and would rely on those arguments.
We've been here now 28 days, first few days of jury selection, and the remainder receiving testimony, an overwhelming amount of testimony and evidence that was presented to the jury for the jury's consideration. As I indicated to the jury during the jury charge, or the charge on the law, that this was a matter solely for the jury to determine. The court found at the end of the state's case that there's sufficient evidence to find the defendant guilty if the evidence was believed by the jury. Likewise, at the end of the defense's case, when the motion was renewed, the court found that the evidence was sufficient for the jury to find the defendant guilty. The jury has now considered the evidence for a significant period of time, and the evidence of guilt is overwhelming, and I deny the motion. Mr. Murdaugh, you now having been found guilty of 2 counts of murder involving your wife and your son, 2 counts of possession of a weapon during the commission of a violent crime. The burden now comes upon the court to impose a sentence. Given the lateness of the hour and the victim's rights that must be taken into consideration and complied with under the Victim's Bill of Rights, and consider what I would anticipate to be a number of people who might have something to say regarding sentencing. We will defer sentencing to a later date. Of course, the minimum sentence for murder is 30 years. The maximum sentence is life imprisonment. as to each count. And on the weapons charge, the sentence is up to 5 years or 5 years, which has to be concurrent if a life sentence is imposed. When would you all like to reconvene for sentencing? I would like to give everyone an adequate opportunity to prepare for it.
State will be ready at 9:30.
We could do it at 9:30 tomorrow morning also.
Tomorrow, bitch.
The defendant is remanded to the custody of the Colleton County Sheriff's Department. And he may be taken away.
Why are they showing the jurors? So up to them whether or not.
Madam Forlady and members of the jury, I want to thank you on behalf of the citizens of the state of South Carolina and
Yes.
your fellow citizens of Colleton County. You did not volunteer for this service. You were called upon by being summoned to appear, and Providence have brought you to this moment in time and these weeks in time. I know that all of you have been here at great sacrifice, particularly juror whose job was on the line until a miracle happened, I guess, that allowed him to be able to leave rather than leave after 2 or 3 weeks. But I want to thank each one of you all individually and collectively. It's not often that you're called upon to sit in judgment of the actions of your fellow man, but you all responded and gave due consideration to the evidence. I will make no comment now as to the extent or the overwhelming nature of the evidence, but certainly the verdict that you've reached is supported by the evidence, circumstantial evidence, direct evidence, all of the evidence pointing to only one conclusion. That's the conclusion that you all reached. So I applaud you all for, as a group and individually, evaluating the evidence and coming to a proper conclusion as you saw the law, as you saw the facts. Now that you've served for the next year, you're not eligible to serve again. Now, of course, many people never get called upon, but you're not eligible for the next year, and for 2 additional years, you can be exempted from service because no person is required to serve on jury duty in this court more often than once every 3 years. Tomorrow morning at 9:30, we will reconvene for sentencing. You all have no role in that because that's solely up to the judge, to me. You're welcome to come back if you want to and be a part of the audience if you like. I also want to thank the officer who was locked away in a room by herself for hours, who's hung in there a period of time. I want to thank you as well Madam Clerk, what do you have to tell your jurors?
Thank you for your service and what the judge said as well. And I think we can release them tonight and bring them back.
No, they're off jury duty. They can come back if they like. And you don't have to if you don't want to. Typically, I've seen jurors wanting to see the end result of a case once they've invested a lot into it. It's really an amazing thing with juries. Quite often, at the start of the case, jurors are really like, whoa, why am I here? I wish I wasn't selected. But as time passes and the jurors become invested and really committed to the case and committed to seeing it through, and are very disappointed when they are not able to see it to a conclusion. And then along the way of serving, you end up finding out quite a bit about our judicial system and learning quite a bit, about human nature for sure, but also about the presentation of evidence and hearing from expert witnesses and really learning a lot of things that you'll be able to take with you when you leave jury duty. And Madam Forelady, I don't know if you were hesitant initially or not, but you have stepped up to the plate and done a great job of leading the jury as well. And thank all of you. So the jury is dismissed. Now, one thing before you go, of course, we have invested a lot in maintaining the privacy of the jury, of each one of you. And you are free at this point to discuss the case with anyone. And given the high profile nature of the case, I'm certain that the many people in the media will probably want to communicate with you, but they have no means of contacting you because under that I issued, the identity of jurors must be kept private. And if you decide that you want to speak with anyone, local, state, nationally, or internationally, that's your prerogative. However, should anyone harass you, please let me know and I will address those issues. If anyone somehow or another discover your identity and harass you, and rest assured I will intercede on your behalf. That having been said, you are free to communicate with whomever you might want to concerning the case from now on. And so with that, thank you, and you all are free to go.
Judge, if I could
Yes.
If I could have you go through that, and I'm going to meet you just a few minutes.
All right. And as is my practice, I'll speak with the foreperson before you leave the building after talking to them back there. Anything else? Be in recess till 9:30 tomorrow morning.
All right.
Hey. Ooh. I knew I was going to be emotional. I didn't know I was going to be that emotional. Sorry. Not sorry. Um, I don't even know where to begin. So I will begin with a tweet that Sarah A. Ford wrote. She is an attorney in South Carolina and a victim's advocate. In fact, let me see where she works. I think she works for the head of the victims advocacy in South Carolina. I'm not sure. It doesn't say it on her little bio, but I don't know. I said little. Power and privilege do not rule in South Carolina. Thanks to these jurors for a swift and true verdict. As I've said many times before, I grew up in the South, a different area of the South. I moved to South Carolina about 20 years ago. And since I have lived here, first of all, I was so excited to live here because I went to school for a little while up in Virginia, and a lot of people from there were from North Carolina. Close people I've met. More like Appalachian area. And I thought it was going to be the same type of people when I moved to South Carolina. I was wrong. Oh my goodness. I don't know if they're going to show Alec coming out. I like South Carolina, the state, and I like the people who aren't like this. I'm just going to get a little personal. My husband and I are different. Obviously, we're different people. He has a wee-wee, I don't. But I've lived many different places. I've befriended a lot of people. I had, and still sometimes have, the hardest to connect people from here. I have one very good friend from here. And again, I've lived here for like 20 years, and that's it. I have friends, but I'm saying originally from South Carolina. Even in our state, different areas, because again, if South Carolina is kind of like this, these people are from like down here, I'm from up here. That's my dog. The treatment that you see, the honor that you see, the privilege that you see isn't localized to the Low Country, which is the area that all of these people are from. But it's the same attitude and demeanor. And there was a chick on TikTok, it would take me way too freaking long to find it accurately. People from the state and from the South, because again, it is Southern culture, all different. And I liken that to the Low Country and the coast, and ties into, what people did when they first took over America, brought stolen people here and all that fun stuff. If it's generations of the same families, I feel like the mindset has to be similar as well. But there was a chick on TikTok that was saying, I am so confused by everyone's confusion. I think that all of the people out here are saying they don't understand the leap that people have to, thinking that just because he stole money, he could kill his wife and son, and all this small town stuff. And she's like, number one, I guess you've never been to the South, but also I guess you've never been to like rural South. She's like, we make gangs but we have last names. If you come from a certain last name, the rest of your life is planned out. You don't have that last name, the rest of your life is planned out. If you didn't notice from the trial, a judge gave Alec Murdaugh a badge he wasn't supposed to have. He was a volunteer solicitor. He was supposed to have a badge. He was not supposed to have the badge that a judge gave him. The condescending way that you've heard Harpootlian, Jim Griffin, Alec didn't really talk condescendingly to women, but, and who was the other person? Harpootlian, Jim, and John Martin, his brother, kind of a little bit, this little play dumb, and Alec did that too, this little play dumb, I'm just whatever, you know, it so angered me in the beginning of this when everyone was like, he's crying, like, he couldn't do this. I'm like, have you guys never encountered an emotionally manipulative man? Again, for most reasons, I hope my neighbors, friends from here never see, because they'll probably perhaps be a little bit shocked by how I'm talking. Not that I'm afraid to, I just feel quite alienated if I did. I have a feeling with this trial, it's going to be a little different around these parts. And I know it is, because as it's gained more national attention, more people feel comfortable in talking about it and talking about the way in which a lot of us have been treated. Familiar with the show Southern Charm on Bravo. That was my first like light bulb moment to, oh my God, these act the way that I think they do. It's not in my head. I'm not crazy. I'm not overreacting. And they're all in for each other and whatever. Then when listening to the Murdaugh podcast, I was like, oh, I thought it was just kind of type of, you know, you haven't been in my family for years, whatever, because I have a little bit of that where I'm too. And yes, Florida's Southern, my part is. But it's still a little bit different. It's not as sinister. But when I started listening to the podcast, I would tell my husband, like, oh my God, it's not because you're just not from here, you're not one of us. This is like a mafia. They don't want anybody in their circle because they don't want anybody finding out what they're doing. Not only for fear, and I don't think it was for fear of being caught, because they had no consequences. Because you see, they are all intertwined and cover for one another. And again, I remind you that the same thing happened in Orangeburg, which is in the middle-ish of the state, with a kid named Bowen Turner and another well-to-do family. It's not just rich, it's your last name. And him not going to jail at all for being charged with essaying people, and every time he was out on bond, supposed to be on house arrest, but was not, another assault would occur. Mandy Matney covered that too. She interrupted the whole entire coverage of the Murdaugh saga to bring that attention, which became national attention, which only then did the rules apply to that family. And he's now in jail. And there's been so much going on. I don't even know if he's ever had a court date yet. So I don't know if he's officially like been convicted of his crimes. And just similar to the boat crash, when one victim got so overwhelmed with how she was being treated by the whole town because of the pressure she got, like, how can you even say this of him? He's such a good person, blah, 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 that she found the only way, and adults were included in that harassment, that the only way she felt was a way out of this was to end her own life. Although the although this trauma is regarding the low country of South Carolina, it's not isolated to them. And yeah, I think that people didn't want people in their lives or in their business, again, not for fear of consequences, but for, I don't want to say fear, sounds like more inconvenience of, if you figure out what I'm doing, I'm going to have to take care of you in some manner. So, I remember you saying that and feeling I didn't want to say that when I went to Gatlinburg, and you're like, "Are you from Cleveland?" Oh my gosh, I haven't looked into the people that started Ingalls. You know, when some of my family first, they're like, "Oh, it's a Hispanic store," because it was like, but yeah, even further, if you watch, again, I feel like I have two extremes of my interests. I like very intellectual things. I'm not calling myself intellectual. I like things like that. And I love reality TV. Not all of it, but what I mostly like is sociology and psychology. And I believe in watching reality TV in some fashions, like Southern Charm. You get to see that dynamic, some of which I would never be privy to. The last season, Shep's girlfriend, I don't know if she's still his girlfriend now, but the skeleton she was exposing on how he treats his family, on how he talks to his mother, on the fact that the next morning after he's cursed his mother out, everybody acts like nothing happened, seems eerily similar to this family. And mind you, they're just like an hour north in Charleston. And even in seasons past, there was a chick on there who going through a divorce. What was his name? JD. He was friends with Craig. And you could tell off camera she had been talking to, I'm sorry if I'm saying names you don't know, just get over it for now. Naomi and everything, telling her friends how horribly she was being treated. And then once they were sticking up for her on camera, she was like, you could tell she was scared, like, no, that's not happening. No, that's not the way. And they're like, girl, yes, it is. And we're tired of the way things are and these men and da 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 da. And the chick that was going through, or saying she was going to be going through the separation and divorce, was like, nope, this isn't the way. Her husband at the time even came to her on camera, is like, is this how you think? No, it's not how I think. Oh no, I don't know where they're getting this from. People here have to play dumb until they get affairs in order with people like this, not with everybody. I don't want you to misconstrue like everyone in South Carolina. There's a hardcore group of people and a mentality like this that does kind of dictate the behavior and the social rules, I guess, of South Carolina. I think if Maggie were rumored, if the rumors are true that she was going to leave him, which I have my own lesser, rest her soul, issues with some of her behavior as well, because I've seen it as well. She may have told people, but she's not dumb enough to see a forensic accountant. Accountant's not going to tell. Not going to tell until every single person is held behind bars where they can't retaliate. Because these people retaliate. Even if it's about a special needs preschool, they retaliate, or at least attempt to. And through this documentary, I kept saying, oh my gosh, Paul's girlfriend and her family are originally from South Carolina. That was their downfall. We may be afraid to speak, we're not afraid to speak. All right, I'm going to see if I can put the link in the chat. If maybe not that, if anybody wants to, shut up, coffee button, talk or not talk. I don't know. I feel like this is a change for no longer no longer being afraid to speak out. And that's why I get so personally pissed off at all the naysayers about Mandy Matney online, some of which know what the hell they're doing. Fitz News, what? But to sit there and report on the things she did when nobody else would, being a woman, yeah, the sentencing is tomorrow. The judge asked, when will people be ready? And the state said, 9:30 a.m. tomorrow. Like, we can do it right now if you want to. But I think it was the right thing to do for the judge to victims have a chance to speak out if they want to. So, I'm dying here. Oh my God. And thank God my husband has been out of town, but he came home last night. He's downstairs with the kids. I was like, the verdict came in. Bye. Ran upstairs. Oh my gosh. This is my crappy craft room, and I have a bag of clothespins that fell on the ground. That's where that crackling was from. I wonder what Judge Newman is going to have to say too. Yeah, like Bickle said, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. It will change over time. But yeah, just so completely angry at the people who know, maybe not the people who don't, but it's a double negative. Coming after Mandy Matney, like, she's always trying to make the story about herself. First of all, she's not. She was the only one reporting on this for years and investigating most of this information that's found out, especially about the financial crimes, is because of her alone. Thank you. It's wet and gross. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'm like internally shaking. This around here, you can't walk into anywhere. People are listening to it on their phones in the grocery store. I will give my husband updates, but especially this week, he's like my coworker. I hear her playing it. I already know. When I took the stand, I was texting him, Alex taking the stand. He's like, I could hear it next door, but I thought you would already know, but I already heard it. And I think someone was mentioning too, I don't disagree. I can't remember who said it, if it was Pickle, whatever. Not sure about this being the whole story. I don't think it's the whole story either. I think he had help. Here's my thought. I don't know if anybody was there while it happened, but believe, in fact, somebody's kind of already admitted to helping him clean up. Oh my gosh. I want to do a whole, like, I feel like I nerd out and do a whole dissertation on, have my theories. I have a theory too about two types of, and no, I don't like this shit for entertainment. I like it for psychology and understanding a thing. And although things like this can be interesting, I do not find it entertainment. And this will probably be the only time. I mean, never say never, but I'm not I listen to true crime. I'm not a true crime content person. I'm very much, a reminder, very much from a place of the victims. And sorry. I'm very invested in this because I live here. So I'm not so convinced on the that reminded me, Stacy. I have a different sorry, it kicked me out. I'm trying to keep law and crime up there too, because I have a feeling that Creighton is going to give a statement. But I also think it's what's probably kicking me out. Okay, won't say the other person's name, but maybe a show that they were on has been mentioned tonight. But two ends of the spectrum. Serial that or assaultists. One always here now, ones who never here now. And like how they both get to where they are, but how they're for two different, how they start, how they have two different beginnings. People like Bundy, I feel like always heard the word now. People similar to this family, never hear now. And I find that dynamic. Hello. Oh my gosh, I have to unmute you. Oh no.
Oh,
You chose.
I think I have to unmute myself.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, how are you feeling about this? So like you've been watching this really closely, and do you feel relieved?
I'm in shock. Oh, that's you. What does Stacy say too? Sorry, I'm like all over the place. I'm in shock. I'm texting neighbors, friends. It's been all consuming, even around here. People especially started perking up around here when they heard Greenville mentioned several times on the stand. Oh, there's Alec. Bye-bye. Fuck you. Rotten hell. You finally don't have to cover your handcuffs. We see them now. By the way, has anybody mentioned or not mentioned, but seen all the times he's been stealing pens from the courthouse and then the sheriff's like, open your jacket pocket again? Seriously, we're doing this every time he steals a damn pen or attempts to from the courtroom.
Maybe he wants to make a shiv.
Right? Hello.
Oh,
they are setting up for a, oh my gosh, it almost looked like cream. How are you?
how are you? I'm my heart's breaking for you right now because like I'll tell you later, but I get it.
I feel grateful for my kids growing up here. And I know I'm glad there are people who understand like the South in here because I probably seem like I'm over dramatic. Like, again, I don't know these people, but the experiences of being around people like this are not foreign to me. So
yeah, I wanted to add one thing to that when you were talking about it. It's just a lot to type and I'm lazy. But like from an anthropological standpoint, when people did start migrating more and more to the US, like I'm talking like the big immigration boom from Europe, they came to the north because there was more industry and jobs, and you didn't walk into the South and start working on a cotton farm and make a good decent amount of money.
Right.
There were other people already doing that and they weren't making money. So they came to the north, so it became very inclusive, and you know, the 4 or 5 big families in counties owned everything, and very much like royalty, married within themselves and just kept that. They kept that stature and that money and that wealth. You know, they talk about old money in the South.
And that's it. And again, it was very, sorry, got a doorbell notification. I know my husband's here. I'm wondering if my neighbors are like showing up. Fuck.
They're bringing the champagne over.
Seriously. And again, one of my neighbors, they go I don't know. I don't ever want people to connect things just in case. But they go down every summer to an island that is kind of near area. And they have mentioned before, they kept mentioning a certain island, and it got brought up in the podcast one time. I was like, that's where so-and-so says the beach for like a week every summer. And so I know them. Obviously, I know my neighbors, but I don't know them. So I'd be like, so what kind of things do you guys do when you go down there? Do you like, I don't know, go on a boat and look for jellyfish? Do you like I was mentioning stuff from the podcast, but I was half being funny, but half being cautious as well. And again, the past couple weeks when things have been mentioned on the stand, they're like, especially regarding the boat crash that the last bar that Paul and his, I don't know remember if it was company that went into the bar with them and got their last drinks. They're like, we go there. I've heard you mention it. That's why I've been so many questions. But yeah, that pastor, justice is coming. I love it. Okay, I've talked a lot. I'm going to be all over the place. So if you guys have something to say, just jump in, because yeah, I'm shaking. I'm so happy, but so overwhelmed. And happy.
I'm just completely in shock that it actually happened.
Right.
Yeah, from a legal standpoint, I mean, I'm not being ugly here, but the case wasn't great.
I agree.
I think that
when the coroner is taking like underarm with his hand to see how long.
Oh my God.
Like, of course, this case is not great.
Yeah.
Even I could look at that as I have no knowledge of the law at all. I can look at that and be like, ooh, this would definitely not even fly on TV.
Right.
What do you
think the turning point was? I have in regard to the jury being like, no, he did it. I'm going to mute.
I think I agree with you. The lies. When he's been maintaining this story and maintaining this story and maintaining this story, and they're like, no, you're not telling the truth. We know you're not telling the truth. And then he gets on stage and he's like, oh, I didn't tell the truth. You know, I was scared. And it's like, reasonably anybody, I don't care how powerful you are, how much money you are, it's a terrifying thing to endure. So I get that he was scared, but I think that people looked at him as privileged. I think there's probably a lot of stories about him in the community of, oh, he represented my cousin, he did this, that, and the other, and he this, and there's probably a lot of chips on shoulders, and they were like, nah, get him.
Right. Well, so last week, I think it was Friday, I believe, whatever, it was one of the days he took the stand. I was going to bring my car in to get worked on, standing at the counter, and my headphones had died. So I was listening. I'm like, I'm not stopping for nobody. I'm still having the trial on and kind of have it, not trying to have it too loud, but where I can hear it.
Right.
And this guy at the counter was like, do you think he's guilty? I'm like, do I think he's guilty? I know he's guilty. And we started talking, and he said he was he's a criminal prosecutor, and he used to, not the word serve, whatever, used to be a lawyer down that way, not quite in any of those counties, but closer to that area. And he said he said back in the 80s, we were at like an attorney's conference, and Buster, the grandfather Buster, was the keynote speaker. And he's like, I'm looking around and all these people are just eating up the BS that he's saying. And he's like, oh my God, they believe him. And oh my God, these are people in power. And he even mentioned that in order to, like, if you guys heard a lot, stand, like Mark Tinsley and other people said, yes, they've done cases with Alec before. I believe if it's in line with what this prosecutor is saying. He told me that in Hampton County, if your client had a case down that way, a client that needed to be represented, it was like the unspoken rule that you had to team up with an attorney from that area, or else your stuff wasn't going to go to court.
Yeah.
So to me, that's very mafia-like. Like, oh, you want to do business in my county? You're going to break me off a piece. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and I think it trickles down to even like you go in and you're filing paperwork, and if the clerk is in the mood to deal with you, she likes you, she likes your practice, she likes your associates, she might do you a little favor and make it go a little quicker.
right.
She doesn't. I think it's very much a cliquey kind of situation.
Thank you. I think I read that in the chat, but still it didn't process.
I fell and I couldn't get up. Thank you.
Oh boy. Welcome to my world.
I saw that you put that you were having a drink in the private chat. Kind of cracked me up. I'm like, don't mind me, I'm just back here having a margarita.
Like, I saw it in the chat, and it still doesn't click sometimes if I see someone in the, I'm like, oh, you have to add them to the stream. I can't tell you how many times I've gone live and have not added myself to the stream. 10 minutes later, oh, I'm talking to nobody, and nobody even sees. But
I think that Murdaugh relied on a sympathy he thought he was going to get, that he's probably been the benefactor of many times in his life, because much like his child, when he, arguably committed a crime, he cried and whined and, oh, I'm innocent, I didn't mean to, and I'm sorry. And I think that's what Alex did. And he went on the stand thinking like, oh, if I just go and tell them how hurt I am, they'll get it. But people, they're sick of hearing that. They're like, you have all this, we have, because the distance between the poor of the poor and the rich of the rich, especially in that area, is shocking. People would not believe it if they, like, you want to talk Appalachia, I'm talking mountain people, and they're out there still to this day.
Yep.
And see, I don't even think it's even like the sympathy he was trying to get, like he thought he was going to get. I think he was arrogant enough that he just thought people would be like, there's no way he would do this.
Right.
Do you guys think he was that arrogant? I think they're coming out to make a statement.
Yeah, mute us. Cool.
All right, hold on.
Y'all be patient. There's a lot of us coming out. How are we on the mic check? Thumbs up. Thank you. We got our team out here. Wow. What a great day for the people of South Carolina. I want to thank every one of you for being here tonight. There's a lot of emotion here tonight at this courthouse. A lot of a year and a half, nearly 2 years of blood, sweat, and tears, it feels like. A lot of hard work from so many people. So if you will just bear with me, there's there's a lot of people I have to thank. But first, those of you who don't know, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm South Carolina's Attorney General, and I got the best staff of any Attorney General in the United States of America. I want to start by thanking our prosecution team. I want to tell you, I've been here for nearly 6 weeks with this team, living in a hotel, and it felt almost like being in a dorm environment in college. Late nights, cramming, studying, little sleep, away from our families, getting up early, getting here to the courthouse, working long hours, getting on each other's nerves at times. But it was all worth it. It was all worth it because we got to bring justice and be a voice for Maggie and Paul Murdaugh and bring justice for the people of South Carolina. I'd like to start real briefly by thanking our team. First, excuse me, put my glasses on. Our chief prosecutor, I tell you, I appointed Creighton Waters to be the chief prosecutor of this case nearly a year and a half ago. And I want to say I'm pretty brilliant because I picked the right guy. And I want to say thank you to Creighton Waters. Creighton, you did a fantastic job. I don't think there's another attorney in the state of South Carolina that could have led this Herculean effort. But Creighton will be the first to tell you he didn't do it alone because he had a team of people. I want to first thank Don Zelinka, who is actually Creighton's boss. He is the Deputy Attorney General, been in the Attorney General's office for over 40 years, sitting here to my immediate left. Don Zelinka, thank you so much. John Metters, many of you got to see him do the closing argument today. John, thank you. You've been a phenomenal add to our team. I'm going to go quickly through the names, but as I read the names, please raise your hand. You know Creighton, you saw Don, and you see John. David Fernandez, John Conrad, Johnny James, Savannah Gowd, Ozzy Toledo, Shane Acito, Carly Jewell, Carson Burney, Danielle Colon, and our victims advocate, Trisha Allen. I also want to say thank you to the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. Mark Keel assigned some amazing men and women. And when I say it was an agency-wide effort on behalf of SLED, I can't underscore that part enough. Every time I called Chief Keel, every time I reached out to the lead agents, every time Creighton was asking me, hey, General, we need something from SLED, we would reach out to SLED, and they were there. They busted their butts. I can't begin to list every agent. And some can't be listed for obvious reasons. Some are standing up here tonight. I told them I wasn't going to mention their names, but we would not be here if it wasn't for SLED. And I want to thank Mark Keel and his team and all of the men and women across the entire state law enforcement division for what they did to make tonight a possibility. Amen. I also want to thank the FBI and the Secret Service, our federal partners. We had to utilize many of their assets and resources. We couldn't do all the things that we did without our federal partners. We had a lot of local partners. We had the Colleton County Sheriff's Department, Buddy Hill, Sheriff Hill and his team providing the security. They did a phenomenal job, and they were there. They were the first responders the night on June 7th, 2021, when Maggie and Paul were butchered brutally. They were the first responders, and they were the first ones to be there. The Charleston County Sheriff's Office, the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office were instrumental in supporting our investigative efforts. You all know Kenny Kinsey, our chief crime scene expert, was with the Orangeburg Sheriff's Office. I also want to thank the city of Walterboro. I think the mayor is here somewhere, and the police department. They provided security. Thank you. This whole community has embraced our entire team, and I cannot thank you enough. We've all been away from our families, 2 hours away from our families for the past 2 months. And it's this community that made us, we would walk into restaurants and people would come up and thank us. You know, you don't have any idea how good that makes people feel when they're under an incredible amount of stress, an incredible amount of scrutiny, and this community really embraced us. I want to thank the Colleton County Clerk of Court, Becky Hill, and her entire team and their staff. I don't know. I call her Becky Booth. That's her nickname. But Madam Clerk, wherever you are tonight. I'm sorry. That's my pet name for her. But I want to thank you, Madam Clerk, for you, the entire team, the bailiffs, the court security, the staff here. There was no role that was too small that they weren't willing to do for us. The security team here, it was a Herculean effort by everybody. I can't thank enough people. I don't know if I mentioned the bailiffs, but I want to thank them. And there's another group of people who you don't know who they are, but that's the jurors. And not just the jurors, but the alternates, the ones who didn't even get to serve to the very end, but people who were taken away from their families. I want to thank the families of our jurors who sat here every single day for what seemed like long amounts of tedious, monotonous information and evidence. Sometimes people didn't know what it meant. They didn't understand it. And they had to sit there and process it and hear it over and over and over again. And I want to thank these nameless jurors whose identities have been protected. They may make their identities available to all of you at some point, but they sat there and they delivered justice tonight. And I want to thank them for their role in this process. You know, Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst form of government except for every other kind. I kind of want to adopt that and say we may have the worst criminal justice system in the world, but it's better than every other kind that there is. And our criminal justice worked tonight. It gave a voice to Maggie and Paul Murdaugh, who were brutally mowed down and murdered on the night of June 7th, 2021 by someone that they loved and someone that they trusted. And they couldn't be here to testify for themselves tonight. Their testimony came through the evidence and the information that was gathered by the men and women of the agencies I've just mentioned. It came from the testimony of the agents and the investigators and the attorneys and the folks in our staff who were able to get it to the court record. And so I want to say tonight, their voice was heard tonight and justice was brought for them. We can't bring them back, but we can bring them justice. Amen. Amen. I started off my remarks by saying that it is a good day in South Carolina. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Today's verdict proves no one, no matter who you are in society, is above the law. A lot of people doubted that this process would work, and hopefully, for those who did doubt the process, hopefully we have instilled and put a little bit of faith back into you and you view this process as it holds. I'm proud of this team. I'm proud of the men and women standing behind me tonight. And there's been a lot of emotion. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I saw firsthand for the last 5 or 6 weeks the countless nights where you were up beyond midnight and you were getting up before dawn, not eating. I was watching Nancy Grace the other night and I heard her call Creighton pale and gaunt because Creighton wasn't eating and sleeping. He really wasn't, folks. I'm serious. You know, we would have to bring in kind bars and things to eat during breaks, but Creighton, effort, my friend. And I am truly honored to have you on our team. Thank you for being a great leader and a great chief prosecutor. And I would like to invite you to come up here and make some remarks for the folks here tonight.
Thanks, everybody. And I want to start by thanking this guy who's given me and all these folks behind us opportunities to do justice, which is what we want to do with our careers. It is very tough and demanding, but it's rewarding for moments like these. The general stole a lot of my lines, but I also want to thank the jurors for their long and arduous service. And we had no doubt that if we had a chance to present our case in a court of law, that they would see through the one last con that Alec Murdaugh was trying to pull. And they did, and we're so grateful for that. I get to lead the state grand jury section in the Attorney General's office. This particular case is not a state grand jury case. There are other indictments that are. But the thing about that is that I have an amazing team. And I want to be clear, this was a team effort. Y'all saw all of these folks behind me doing amazing work. And I can't be prouder of a team in my life. We called this our Super Bowl, and not because of the media attention, but just because of the effort that we knew that we would have to put into this. And we didn't really get to watch much of the Super Bowl that went on because when we arrived, I think it was winter and it feels like spring now. But every single member of this team, every single member of the state grand jury staff, what we do well is work together as a team in complex investigations. And who we work with is my partners at SLED. And I can't thank them enough as well because we're used to working on these complex cases and working together. And I'm not leaving out Sheriff Hill and the Colleton County Sheriff's Office and our federal partners in Orangeburg and Charleston Sheriff's Office and all the other agencies that have worked on this case. I also want to thank Ms. Becky, if she's still up there, because it's been amazing. The clerk staff has been amazing. The court staff has been amazing. The bailiffs have been amazing. And I also want to thank the city who really has embraced us and has been great to us and made us able to survive this process that has been long and arduous. And I haven't been sleeping. I hadn't been. And I have been eating more than Kind bars every now and then. But, and I'm sure that's a nice plug for Kind. But anyway, it really has been a great process. We will have sentencing tomorrow. Obviously, we're not going to comment on sentencing because that's still pending. But justice was done today. It doesn't matter who your family is. It doesn't matter how much money you have or people think you have. It doesn't matter what you think, how prominent you are. If you do wrong, if you break the law, If you murder, then justice will be done in South Carolina. And I think South Carolina has shown the nation and the world how a process can work and work well. Thank y'all.
And also, I want to thank Creighton. I told Creighton, I said, Creighton, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna be just a staff attorney. I know I'm your boss. I'm your boss's boss's boss, but I said I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna help. And I said I'm gonna follow instruction. And I hope I was true to my word. This past weekend, I was saying, what can I do to help? I said I'm willing to take a witness if it'll help. He said, actually, it would. So he let an old prosecutor dust off his cleats and get back in the game and to help the team out. And
I got to be the boss of the boss for a while.
Yeah, don't get used to it. No, but in all seriousness, I'm proud of the decisions that I made in putting the people behind me and to the left and right of me in charge of this case. And I was honored to be part of this team. Just another member, just another worker bee in the trenches trying to bring justice to the people of this state, and to bring justice to the people who couldn't be here tonight because they were brutally murdered by someone they trusted. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people want to talk to us. A lot of people want to talk to some of the attorneys and the support staff and the agents, investigators here tonight. Some of you want to talk to me and others. We're going to make ourselves available to you. But like Mr. Waters just said, tomorrow there's a sentencing hearing, and we don't want to get out in front of our skis. And plus, I'm starting to feel the rain come down. But I promise you, we're going to make ourselves available to talk to members of the media, to talk to all of you out there that have questions. We'll answer any questions that we ethically can. We hope you'll continue to be patient with us as we finish this process tomorrow. Again, we're going to go back and get a good night sleep tonight. But again, thank you. I'm going to also, one last group that we didn't thank, the media. You all, I know a lot of people in this polarizing world we live in, a lot of people take shots at the media, but the media was incredibly respectful. You were so good, not just to us, but listen, to the families of the victims, okay? I know this is an awkward situation, but you protected the identities of people, and you protected the process. And I want to thank you for your part in this and telling the stories, educating the public on what's going on out there. So now I'm going to stop speaking as an attorney general, and I'm going to close as a father and as a husband to say that when you go home tonight, hug your loved ones, hug your spouse, hug your children, because this case reminds us of anything that you can't take for granted that people in your family are always going to be there. And right now, when I get home tomorrow, I'm going to hug mine, and I hope you hug yours. But thank you again. Thank you for your prayers.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your prayers. You came and prayed for me. I see a lot of people come up and say, we're praying for you. We appreciate your prayers. Thank you all so much. And this is going to conclude this press conference. We look forward to talking to all of you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna let you go right here. I just want to thank you and your staff. Y'all just did a good job. God bless you. Thank y'all very much.
All right, I'm gonna
Thank y'all.
stop
And thank the media.
streaming now.
All right.
Boop, boop, boop. Oh goodness, that was cute. Is he in the South Carolina National Guard?
Oh.
I'm gonna have to ask some questions later. But yeah, that guy. Amen. Preach.
I was waiting for it. I was like, please say yes, brother. I was like, come on.
It reminded me of church so much. I don't go to a white church here, if you can't tell. But
I was disappointed that nobody laid on hands.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I just like how he's like, and I even did one of the witnesses as a way to like, so remember guys, this wouldn't have happened without my great decision-making process. So really, I'm the one that did all of this. Had I not had the forethought to assign this case to this amazing prosecutor, none of this would be possible. So please thank me.
Right.
Isn't that funny how that is? Like I'm from rude California, so we're pretty rude up front. We're not as rude as like New York or like Jersey, but we're a little ruder. Or we'll look through you and go, like, you don't exist. But the South, y'all are like polite and cordial, and then sometimes you just slide in like an insult in the back end or a humble brag, and we just are catching up because we're stuck on the humility, and we catch up. And I'm like, now that you mention it, yeah, that did happen.
I feel it's different too. Okay, this may be a shocker. I know what Steel Magnolias is about, but I have never actually seen the entire movie.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna cry.
Yeah, that's probably why I just now choose not to.
I loathe that movie because I have,
Really?
okay, I mean, I've been doxxed, so everybody knows my first name is Shelby. And for years, I have walked around hearing people drink your orange juice, Shelby. And I'm like, oh,
really?
My God. Yes. Leave me alone.
And see, I take issue with the bless your heart thing because, okay, the Steel Magnolia reference, I have seen clips of it. And the way that they act is the kind of Southern that I'm used to. Like, I'm used to that, like, Georgia, Alabama, whatever.
They're antebellum, very
snippy. But like, if someone doesn't like you, you know they don't like you. And yes, they have pleasantries, but they're not hiding when they're cutting you down. And again, I know I've said it before, but where I'm from, when you say bless your heart, we actually mean, oh my goodness, bless your heart. Like, I feel so sorry for you. When I moved here, I learned it doesn't have the same meaning. Bless your heart means, oh, you're an idiot. But that's not what it means where I'm from. And
where I'm from, it can mean either or. It depends
really?
on how you say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess because I live in the middle, I like live in the middle from where you grew up to where you live now.
Yeah.
So I get both worlds.
Yeah. I don't know. And
you know, like something sad happens to you, and I'm like, oh my, bless your heart. I really just mean bless your heart.
Right.
But if you do something stupid, I'll be like, oh, bless your heart. And that definitely means like, oh, honey, it's a good thing you're so pretty.
If I told you that I was I was blow drying my hair, and the blow dryer sucked in my hair and got stuck, what would you say?
Well, bless your heart.
I would say, oh, you're an idiot.
That really did happen to me, by the way. I was like, oh my God.
My mom called me one day. Now my mother is Midwestern as Midwestern gets. My father's family is from North Carolina. I moved south. My parents moved south, not because they love me, not at all. Just because my dad's like, I want to go see my family. Right. And my mom was working and she was in charge of a big business, a big company. And some little old lady got mad at her. And my mom called me and she said, I learned a new cuss word today. And I said, you did? Because I'm telling you, my mother, there is not a cuss word or phrase foreign to this woman. She wrote the book. And I was like, well, what was it? And she said, this woman came in today and I upset her. And she said, well, bless your heart. I said, oh, I said, you better go home. Just give it up.
Use that with discretion for sure. Yeah, but that's one thing what Spackle was talking about that was foreign to me when I moved here was it's like the fake niceness, the fake politeness and pleasantries. And it's funny how much that's of great importance to people here. I mean, again, where I come from, yes, sir, no, sir, whatever, don't be disrespectful. But if you notice when Alec and John Marvin were on the stand, they both were saying, you know, oh, well, they were really respectful or they were really polite. And, you know, it's this weird, I don't want to say obsession that they have, but thing that they stick on. But it's not actually politeness that they're after. It's like this
respect,
appearance of politeness.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that they were shocked by it? Do you think that, like, what I took from that was that in a way they were shocked that they were now in the position they were in because the appearance from the onset was of polite, respectful demureness to their position. And they felt almost like it was a gotcha. Like, oh, I can't believe they pulled the wool over my eyes by being so polite. They should have been like, oh, I know you did this from the jump.
I think in the South too, a lot of us are in a race to be the most polite, passive aggressive person in the room.
Well, you got us all beat, Stacey. But
I don't feel like Stacey's passive aggressive. I feel like
she's not. I'm
Stacey's
picking on her.
aggressive. I love
right.
it.
I am pretty aggressive.
And again,
okay. We like it.
That's something that, like, where I come from, if you don't like somebody, they know, you know. But at the same time, if they're in a position of, like, again, hurricanes, if your house blows down, your fence blows down, I may hate you, but I'm going to walk outside and help you build your fence back. After we're done, I'm going to go back to FUs. But that's true politeness, in my opinion.
Right.
And to me, I appreciate directness, and don't sit here and act like you like me, or like this whole passive, demure, humble, whatever, when you're not. Like, you don't have
They'll
to
come around and like insult you with a compliment. They're like, man, you did such a great job decorating your home. I just don't know how I could fit all my stuff in here like you did.
Yes.
Right.
That's a way of saying, like, your house is smaller than mine.
You live in a goddamn Cracker Jack box.
My house at first, it's different now, but someone called it a very cute bungalow. And I understand bungalow is a term for a type of house, but that's not how they meant it. And I was just
right.
So that would be acceptable here. A cute bungalow means like, oh, by the beach. It's like craftsman house. Maybe it's like well built and old school, where they actually had the skill set to, like, you know, have the crown molding and the nice archways and shit. You're like, oh yeah, cute little bungalow. But over there, it's like, what, sticks? Like, they're like, nice house.
No. And again, I'm like, bitch, I'm not in a trailer. This is a nice house. And living in a trailer is nice. So I don't.
I remember when I was a kid, like, I grew up in a double wide, and the preacher's wife came over one day to talk to my mom, and we were sitting in the living room, and she was like, so how do you guys like living in a trailer? And even like little kid me knew what she meant.
Yeah.
Which, first of all, we never went back to that church, but yeah, my mom went off on her. She's like, how do we like having a home? Well, we love it.
Right. That's what I don't get. And I don't get how people don't understand. I feel like maybe even if you don't live paycheck to paycheck, I feel like everyone, especially in America with our medical system, is one disaster away from.
Well, and you know, the funny thing is in the area that I grew up in, us living in a double wide meant we were one of the rich families in my town.
Right.
Like, that's how poor the town was that I grew up in. People thought my family was rich because we had 2 vehicles and we didn't live in a single wide. We lived in a double wide. So we were like fancy.
A lot of
I would have
has to
looked
do
at
with
her.
family wealth too that you build up, right? Like, so like, I don't come from a lot of family wealth. Like, I come from some people that were in the States that were very creative about creating their wealth, whatever you want to take from that, you can take from that. And then there was other people that like came off the boat from Ireland, went, hey, here I am. And they had to build their life from scratch. My grandpa joined the Navy and made a life that way. And then like the way that we pulled together growing up was that we would be like living like Full House. So here we are in Southern California because like that's where the Navy brought my family at that point. So that's how I ended up in SoCal and not on the East Coast. So you're living in SoCal. It's so expensive to live even back then. Like, it's ridiculous now. And so like the way that we did it, because my family's like anti-welfare, whatever that is, you know, I'm not, but they are. Like the way that we did it made it work was like pulling together as a family and like living like Full House status. Like, oh, this is my uncle, this is my aunt, this is my grandmother. And it was like 13 people in a house. and it worked. It worked, but like it depends on how dysfunctional your family is, how bad that can go. but it worked for a time, but it meant that I was judged quite a bit, like because people didn't have that same experience.
If people judge that too, I don't hear, well, obviously, but there's a large Hispanic population, especially in the upstate. I think it's a lot of South Carolina now, but in the upstate especially. And I have friends who they live in a very nice home. Doesn't matter if they didn't, not the whole point, but multi-generational, multi-family. And I loved going over there. We all like had our kids. We could run to the store. Someone was there to watch a kid. We just bust out and dance parties and everything. And I don't know, it was so awesome to me. And then I remember being in school in sociology class, mind you. And somehow the topic or discussion of that day was, I don't know what brought it to it, but we're talking about Hispanic families. And this one chick was like, well, you know how they all like live together and stuff like that. Like she was making fun of them as in like their wealth, like they have to live with one another. I'm like, first of all, I think it's more just a cultural thing than it is.
It definitely is a cultural thing.
It's both.
But not only that, this bitch who was looking down on them was like, man, I hope class gets over. I've got to go pick up my kid or else I'm going to have my mom pick them up. And basically, long story short, she was in a multi-generational house because of exactly what she was trying to make fun of them for, because they couldn't afford it, which there's nothing wrong with that. But the irony of her looking down on someone else for the exact thing that she's having to do, I just found, I don't know.
Well,
I just stared at her like, is this going to click? No.
Well, culturally too, like, so the attitude that us white folks have in general, I'll just say in general,
you white folks,
and it's state to state, there's differences, I think, state to state or whatever, but there's an attitude of, in my opinion, granted I'm from California, but in my opinion, there's an attitude of like, well, as soon as you turn 18, you need to either go to college or get a job. And then when you get married, you need to have 2.5 kids and a house and a dog and a mortgage, and that's your life. And some people's lives don't end up like that. But one thing that's unique in the US, I think, is we have such a hyper focus on the nuclear family. Like there's a mom, there's a dad, there's a kid or two, dog, whatever. Family can't be too big, and like it's just like we don't even talk about the grandparents. They're just sort of like peripheral satellites in the system. But if you like you like anthropology, I'm guessing, if you like sociology and psychology, but like we as human beings really were designed, or design sounds like I'm inferring a creator, but we are. It is in our nature to want to kind of have a village raise a child. That actually is how we are kind of evolved. And the idea, like there's anthropologists that think that grandparents live as long as they do now, and they tend to live longer if they have grandkids, because there's some sort of biological reasoning there. like it's just like they're actually still part of the family.
Well, it's true.
Yeah.
It's if you go back to early evolution, someone had to watch the children while someone went out to harvest and forage and hunt. And if you know anything about hunting, you know that it's better in groups than it is. There's a greater chance of success if there's more people hunting. So if all the 25 to 35-year-old adults are going out to hunt, there has to be someone left behind to watch the children. So that perfectly makes sense. And then also we are comparing ourselves in that sense, maybe unconsciously, to much older societies in Europe and Asia and overseas, whatever. But here, at one point in our history, it was a village, because like you moved to this country and the people off the boat with you, you built a little village and you did what you could to survive.
Right.
And then closer to like Industrial Revolution, right before that, I mean, kids were working from the age of, there were little kids out in the fields with their parents the moment that they could toddle along and walk along and learn how to, work the fields. Vice versa, we all know the history of, early industrialism where little kids were working in factories because they had to. It wasn't,
right.
Because they
There
were bored. It
no
was
labor laws, and plus it had to be one more person to help feed the family.
Exactly. So it's something that we viewed as a society as a struggle symptom. So once that family got to the point where the kids didn't have to work because they built up enough generational wealth, then it was oh, you don't have to go home and help your dad till the yard or, do whatever. Oh, you don't go work in the factory when you're 9 years old. You get to go to school.
Right.
So it's very much viewed still, even though we don't necessarily realize it, it's still very much a wealth thing. And wealth is something that all human beings, whether you're taught it or not, I have found you're still very conscious of it just because of the society we live in.
And going back to what Spackle said too, in regard to like the nuclear family and the village, we being very generalized, the same people who look down on different generations living in the same household pay to have that village. People who pay for, and again, there's nothing wrong with it. We have a person who helps us more because of my son's disabilities. It's a whole other story. And I don't even care.
Joey.
People have to live lives. But so you're still, I guess it's the irony that I'm just honing in on tonight, but like looking down on people for having that support system, that natural village. Now you still have it. You're just paying to replace it. And granted, not everyone has parents who are alive or is a healthy situation or whatever, but it's just interesting to me that although people have tried to get away from it, they're still recreating it artificially. Sorry, every once in a while, my mind's still going to, oh my God, he was found guilty.
And I think going back to he was found guilty, if it wasn't for like technology today and how things like this can get national attention, do you really think that there would have been justice tonight?
No.
Like at all?
No.
So
I think though that I think that like based on his family history and longevity and the different generations being involved in the same family business, if nothing else, I think the other law figures, lawmakers, lawyers, I think they were sick of them. I think that there's probably been, like I said, other stuff whispered about here and there about other people in the family and, going back to grandpa and great grandpa and everything else. And I think they were like, no, you've done something. We're going to prove it as best we can. We're going to take you down, buddy, because we're done with this.
But what do you think about the people who are also involved, who are law enforcement and everything else? Like maybe not in this particular crime, not the murders, but all the rest of the corruption and badge giving. And
I think that there's a certain amount of corruption that's acceptable and almost expected in those societies. That's just, it's the boys will be boys argument. I think you have to play within the guidelines that are unspoken. And I think that he didn't. And I think that they're just done. I don't think there's going to be a sweeping de-corruption movement within, that county.
I can tell you there ain't enough money that I would never have enough money to just roll up into any of these places and be like, hey, put some blue lights on my car, please.
Right.
And that goes, okay, Nikki's here now too. And now I feel a little bit more like I can talk about things a little bit more, maybe not too much, but I've shared with some of you guys already. This is the type of shit. So my next door neighbor, not currently, but used to be, was or says he was a volunteer firefighter. I'm still not, I tried to look into whether or not that was the case. I contacted the fire department and they never got back with me, and I felt like a creeper for continuing to try to figure it out. But maybe this was 4 years ago, I'm not sure. He was the one that impersonated a police officer. I'm fairly certain this became national news. Shows you how much I watched the news. I didn't know about it until like 5 months after it happened. But he used his little lights in his car to pull somebody over. And while he pulled someone over, another deputy saw him pulling a guy over and went to aid him, as you often do. Came up and saw, his name's Wyatt, I'll just say that. Came up to Wyatt. I was like, you don't look like a police officer. And Wyatt got all fumbly bumbly. And eventually it was found out, nope, he's not a police officer. Guy that Wyatt originally arrested got on Snapchat, started recording. It was like cracking up. The police officer that arrested me is getting arrested. So, gonna use you, Nikki. When she was doing, for a little while there, and needs to continue doing, her like Friday things about like dumb criminals or whatever, I messaged her. I was like, dude, I've got one for you, but I want you to do it because it's funny, but I also don't want you to do it because like it's my neighbor. And I tried to look up the information and I'm like, holy crap, I can barely find anything. And again, once this stuff is settling down, I'm going to look into his ex-wife, which was also a neighbor at the time. They both lived directly, like I could freaking look out, boop, there's their house right there. We can do the little telephone with a paper cup and string to each other. The rumor was on my street was from a well-to-do family. I swear I thought it was from the Georgia area, and I don't even know if it was like Savannah or whatever, but that would be close to like Charleston, the Low Country thing, if it were. I never looked up where her family was from, but I'm fairly certain, especially the news reporters and everything that soon after joined his blog, that he tried to be similar to the People of New York, which he called People of Greenville. And a lot of the news reporters that reported on him when he arrested people were now joining him and acting like nothing happened and doing these little detailed stories about different people. I really feel like they got a PR team and like erased everything that they could. He didn't do any time for it. I believe he was found guilty, but he basically had to do something similar to, like, they call it pretrial intervention here. I don't know what it's called everywhere else, but like if it's your first offense, you do some community service and your record is expunged.
Yeah.
This is a man who convinced another grown man that he was a police officer. My daughter and their daughter were supposed to be at the same elementary school. I took very large issue with there being no restrictions on him accessing the school where my child goes. Because if you can convince a grown man that you're an actual police officer, you can convince little kids that you're a police officer. And he did this. It was a summertime, and I feel like it was like 7 or 8 at night, so it was still somewhat light out. It was in, it was on a 4-lane highway, like a busy, well-populated road, well-used road. So it wasn't like he was hiding in some backwoods or whatever, back roads, which made me feel like this can't be his first time that he's done this.
No.
When I tell you my jaw freaking dropped when I went to, again, our houses are kind of close to one another, and a lot of us have kids around the same age. Walked in the backyard of one of my neighbors' houses. They're having like a football thing, kids playing, whatever, and there he was sitting, and I'm like, and by that time I did know. I'm like, why the hell is he here? Like, and everybody's going on acting like nothing's happened. And I'm slowly getting my kids. I'm like, oh, we gotta go home. I don't know, made some excuse. But this is the type of shit that I know goes on, and people cover it up. Now, I haven't said things a lot publicly because I do feel bad for the wife. She didn't do it. I do feel bad for their kid. But at the same time, I'm so sick of people covering for other people. And when I say covering, I don't even mean I just mean covering the fact that it happened, not trying to get them out of the consequences. But we don't want the bad publicity on our family. So we're just going to bury the story. I'm sure it's going to be shameful. The kid looks exactly like him, so that's going to be a shitty reminder for forever. And the last I heard, and I think I've said this before, last I heard he was going to LA to write a script about his life and whatever. I think he went a little off the edge and probably stopped getting the care that he needs. Again, nothing wrong with that. Everybody, I have my own mental health issues. I don't impersonate police officers, but hey. But yeah, it's embarrassing. I'm sure it's embarrassing as hell to have your family member do something like that. But
do you think they're going to have to put him under watch? Because I do.
Who, Alec?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
I think they should, whether they feel it's prudent or not. I think as an outward gesture, they should do it.
What do you mean as like an outward gesture, like a cover your own ass type of thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that disgusts me, Julie. The OJ thing.
He's so desperate for relevance. Old man, go away.
I don't know why everybody thinks I'm an expert in this. Anyway, we probably won't go there.
What's even worse is the people that egg it on, because he wouldn't be doing it if it weren't for all the people that are like laughing about it and sharing it and like.
I mean, whose ex-wife, the mother of your children, gets murdered, and then you write a book called "If I Did It"?
Right. Absolutely disgusting.
I did actually make an OJ reference though when this trial was going on, because the defense attorney really thought that he was handing out like, if the glove don't fit, you must acquit with that argument. And he was not doing that.
Everything was falling flat because I think, again, people have felt like they've had to flatter people, like kind of like a girl laughing at a guy's jokes that just really aren't funny because you just kind of feel like you have to. So maybe they'll leave you alone. I feel like it's been that situation with a lot of these people, like with the stupid flattery and bless my little poor heart, I don't understand anything. And, you know, these, hey, they're coming after people with guns. Am I right? Like he was just going through the Rolodex of how can I relate to these jurors? And it was extreme secondhand embarrassment seeing him.
They just came off as like being so condescending too. Like they did themselves zero favors. They talked, and like his team and him himself talked like he was talking to people that were less than them.
Yep.
Like I joke, like, explain it to me like I'm 5, but they were literally talking to these people like they were 5, and they were
Right.
just that ignorant to catch on to it.
Yes.
Well, that's why I think it's so surprising. Yeah, that's to me, in a way, excuse me, why it's surprising, because juries, historically, we know, like to be treated like they're intelligent. They like to be treated as if they're in the know, even though it's random, even though any one of us can get a jury summons at any time for anything. It could be about, egg embezzlement at the local Walmart. I don't know anything about eggs.
Ask
I don't
the
know anything
juror
about
that was
embezzlement.
his excuse today.
Right. But juries like to be treated like they're intelligent, like they're there for a reason. They were chosen. It's a pride thing. That's why I was like, ooh, I had some questions about whether he'd be found guilty. That's also why I believe, truthfully, or honestly, or in my opinion, I should say, that the verdict, well, I don't have a problem with the verdict. I'm not saying he should have been innocent. I believe that the jury came to their conclusion based definitely in part on the facts as presented, but also I think that they were like, they've lived this for the story since it began.
Right.
They wanted to have their say, kind of thing.
Yeah. I agree with that. Kind of like we're tired of the way things have been around here, and yeah, we don't want to be talked to or treated like that anymore. You guys can't treat us like this anymore.
I think that if they had walked in on day one and the prosecution had said he's guilty and the defense had said he's not guilty, and they sent it to the jury would have found him guilty. They already knew enough to form an opinion on the man's character.
Right.
I think they would have found him guilty from the jump.
I don't know. Because although I think pretty much everyone believed he was, I think there had to be overwhelming emotional evidence for them to feel like they wouldn't be retaliated against if they did.
Well, that's a big thing too, because there's got to be some amount of fear of retaliation, but the whole family has been taken down in a sense through this prosecution. There is no one who is going to be taken seriously or have substantial power anymore,
right,
that could do anything. So they're emboldened also by the prosecution, by the witnesses, by SLED, and by the people in power who are like, no, this guy's a bad dude. He needs to go.
I think, and I think someone earlier said it as well, Metters today, the last prosecutor to speak, I believe that was Metters, right? At that point, I was listening. I don't think I was watching, but I was listening at that point. Yeah, I think we were picking up our kids. But I'm like, man, I really like Creighton Waters, but I do think he a little lost in the weeds at times, over-explained the crap out of things, and wasn't good at making things cohesive. Like, I understood why he was bringing up what he did, because I knew the chain of events and the characters and whatever, but perhaps the jury didn't. He didn't make it obvious. But I think with closing arguments, and especially with Metters, I had said earlier this morning, I'm like, okay, everyone's arguing about 5'2" and this and that, and the state not presenting enough and da da da. I'm like, but what do we know? What do we know? We know for sure that Alex said he was there within minutes of them being killed. We'll even say 10 minutes, just give him a little something. We know that he lied for years and for almost the entirety of this trial about being there. he said on the stand, there was no one else there but him, Maggie, and Paul. Whether that's true or not, I do believe there at least was someone there to help him clean it up. But that's what he said on the stand. No, the dogs didn't react like there was a stranger because there wasn't a stranger. I couldn't believe he said that. Like, and even Creighton Waters was like, thank you for saying that. I'm glad we cleared that up. He had 2 witnesses come in and say that he made them feel like he was trying to convince them to tell a different story than the actual events that happen. Whether or not raincoat, tarp, whatever, this witness, who was very terrified on that stand to speak, was saying she felt like he was trying to get her to say something different than she saw. Another woman got on the stand, said, I felt like he was saying something to try to get me to say something different than what I know that I saw. There's some other points that I can't. Oh, we know he lied on the stand. He lied on the stand. It happened before our eyes. He lied about having permission to get the blue lights in his car. And then they had the sheriff come in and be like, nope, never gave him permission. Nobody on my team ever got permission. That's not a thing we do. I didn't see it happen. Didn't say it was okay. Like, he literally lied on the stand. There's so many things that I understand that doesn't equate to someone being guilty of murder. But if anything, I feel like the most damning thing was him lying about being at the kennels and him lying for so long that he was at the kennels, not only up until the trial, but during the trial. You wasted every fucking person's time sitting up on here for, at the time, 5 weeks saying, I wasn't there. And then when it looked like you had no other choice but to say you were there, that's when you come clean. I feel like that, coupled with everything else, and yes, I think I have a different opinion now, or understanding of circumstantial versus direct evidence. Before, it's always been in my brain like circumstantial was a weak type of evidence, and I just don't believe that anymore. I believe if you only have one example and it's the only thing you have, maybe that's not a strong case. But when you had so much shit, it kind of like, well, oh, that too, oh, that too, okay, maybe one of these is a coincidence, but all of them, nah, I don't think so. I think him taking the stand was the nail in the coffin. I think his brother put another nail in the coffin. And I think the very last prosecutor that did the rebuttal today was the hammer that because common sense, people, listen to all he said and done and lied about and cried, and the manipulation, the papa mama stanky leg thing, and he'd never spoken about them before in any of the interviews. And I don't know. I'm glad he testified, but yeah, like Stacey said earlier, I think it was the dumbest thing ever. But for the fact that he was found guilty, I'm quite glad he did. I'm shocked because we don't have to say allegedly anymore. Mm-hmm.
Like, he honestly thought he was gonna outsmart everybody. He's like, tap me in, let me go in. Like, he thought he was the A team.
I think he's a control freak. I think that's part of I have no idea what happened that night. I wasn't there. I'm not a law enforcement official. I do have a background in forensics, but a totally different kind of, I'm not a crime scene investigator, nothing like that. But I do think that, I don't think he was the only one. I think that, okay, so he orchestrated his own assault, which he wanted to end a different way, perhaps. Even that, who can know for sure.
Right.
But I think that it was motivation is something I can't even speak to because I can't wrap my head around it in no way whatsoever. I've been having this conversation with Becky. What's the motivation? It doesn't make sense. The amount of money involved, and it just doesn't make sense.
We're not like diabolical, sadistic thieves and murderers, so it's not supposed to make sense to us, you know? Thank God it doesn't.
Yeah. Even analytically, I can't make it join together because no one, I'm sorry, not even Keith Richards can do that many drugs and that costs that much money and still be walking around. Like there's more to it there. Like
there's no way his body had not shut down. Like there's
there's
way.
just no hospitalizations and you're able to hide it for an X amount. No, bro, you'd be in the hospital at some point. Like something would be going on.
My family didn't even know that I was on them. Yeah, right. Like, do you and your family not live in the same house? Because there's no way if I started doing 30 pills of anything that my husband wouldn't be like, something is off here.
Right. You do 30 Tylenol in a day for a week and you're going to the hospital at some point. I promise you.
Freaking.
It's going to happen to you.
Yeah.
I think that he orchestrated it. I think that he couldn't handle staying away. Maybe he had second thoughts and thought maybe I can be a hero. Who knows what was racing through his mind? And I think he showed up. And I think that he then was involved because things weren't done the way he wanted to. He panicked. I think it's a control thing. I think 100% it comes down to he has to be
maybe
in
he
control.
Lost control with the son, and as the mom was coming running, he knew he either had to get rid of her too, or it was him.
No, and I can see that absolutely because that could be his Paul's behaviors and Paul's
he was a problem.
The stuff he was a problem. Exactly.
And you know, when a control freak loses control, you know what they do? They do the dumbest shit.
They freak out. And in a family with, of rule breakers, there's still rules that you have to follow.
Oh, for sure. The rules are loyalty and
silence.
Yep. And there's one ironic thing. I can't play it because I'll have a breakdown. I saw parts of it and there's a video of Alec when he represented Hakeem Pinckney, and
I saw it.
It seems like he was doing like a little blurb for the videography company that they use, during trials and stuff. In fact, that's what he was saying. And he said that, there's no more, the most powerful testimony doesn't come from a person. It comes from a video. And they're showing the video of Hakeem Pinckney, who couldn't take care of himself any longer, and, all the while stealing from him.
Yeah.
But it's ironic in the fact that now we know what you were doing when you were saying that and making that video. And like, again, another level of how dare you, but also, yeah, asshole, the words came back to haunt you forever. You're absolutely right. There's no greater testimony than a video, like a fucking Snapchat video of you down at the house that night.
Well, like, think about it. If he lost control and he did that to the son, right? And then what, like, any mother is going to come after, like, I don't care how long we've been married, you just did this to our son.
Yeah, my husband would die.
Well, and I mean, they were already in the middle of, I don't know if they weren't at the point of divorce, but like they were separated and she knew something was going on. She didn't want to be with him anymore. There's a famous case. I'll send it to you guys. I can't quote the names right now because my brain doesn't work. But it's this guy who money isn't necessarily as strong because it was a very poor town and like nobody was really that wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
But the guy was just a plain old bully. He had a couple different wives. that he scooped up when they were like 11, 12 years old each. And we're talking 40s, 50s, 60s era. And he, he beat his wives, and he would get pulled over and the cops would just let him go because they were all just terrified of this guy. Yeah, he would steal from people. And when the people would be like, whoa, you just stole from me, he would like, shoot up their house or kill their dog or like do something. He just got away with stuff for so long. He was just like the bane of this whole town's existence. And one day he was driving his truck in the middle of town and someone shot and killed him. And they never found out who it was, and not a person said a word.
Yeah.
No, only the wife at the time was, she was like, I can't believe that you guys killed my husband here, and somebody's going to get away with it, and the cops aren't doing their job. And the cops were kind of like, it's a crime. Sucks. But it makes me think of this a lot, because it just, for me, again, to me, it feels like this town was just waiting for the moment. And now they're like, no, we're done on all levels.
I think they were waiting for the moment they felt safe to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, again, I think, in fact, when this all was coming out, me and another person who may or may not have, done makeup for the people during one of their Dateline or 2020 interviews, I was like, I think that technology is these people's worst enemy, because back in the day, people could do it in their own little vacuum and bubble. But now they can't, because people are recording things. We're also able to access court records, arrests, just things that happen. People can say things online.
Location data.
Well, not just that, but like before, when Paul got into a car accident and he and his mom and his dad came to like clean it up, get the beer cans out, don't call 911, all that kind of stuff. Now someone were driving past it, taking a picture of it, puts it on social media. There's no taking that back. You can say whatever you want. You can try to cover it as much as you want, but it's out there and it's spreading and it's everywhere. You can't do things in the dark anymore. So I think that technology has been, again, even myself, I came to Nikki about this shit at least a year ago. And I was like, I want to talk about this, but number one, it's kind of not what my channel is about, but also I'm scared to, because this person, that person, whatever. And that's me living all the freaking way up here, not knowing any of these people, not whatever. I don't want to say I was afraid. I feel like that's a little dramatic, but apprehensive to talk about things. And I don't know these people. They don't know me. Probably no chance they would ever hear or see what I have to say. And I'm thinking, if I'm not nervous about it, then the people that live there are 25 million times more nervous to talk about it. But when there's a national spotlight and everybody's paying attention to what these people are doing, and you can connect the dots and again pull records and look at who owns what property and whose dad was this and whose solicitor that and everything, they can't intimidate people and cover things up anymore. Like, they're exposed. They don't have a cover anymore. It's like wide open. Everybody can see it. Continue to see.
Right.
That's the whole reason Bowen Turner was arrested, because a national spotlight was put on it. He was still, to this day, going on and assaulting girls and not going to jail for it. It wasn't until a national spotlight was put on it and people were like, oh shit, no. Typey, email, call. You guys can't do this anymore.
Well, that's like the Rodney King. I feel like the Rodney King case is what like started that, because had it not been videotaped, what happened to Rodney King, I don't think anyone would have ever been punished. And there wasn't real punishment, to be fair. But that's when the tides turned and people are like, no, we're sick of this. It doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, what social or what caste you are. I know that's not the right word for our society, but same thing. If
Yeah.
you feel oppressed, you can identify with oppression.
Right.
And people are like, no, we're done with this.
The real enough is enough.
For real. I'm here to represent. I represented the other one. I turned that representation in. I'll take the representation of this one now.
That's how these extreme groups on either side get power, is there's so much oppression that they're able to be like, look, we're going to make you not be poor. We're going to make you not do this. And then normal people start being like, yeah, let's nominate the craziest people in the world.
Right.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. People don't feel heard. So when somebody's very vocal, they're willing to look aside a little. I don't think they're little sins, but little sins that are inconsequential, because I watched a documentary the other night about coal miners. And it was a kid in West Virginia, and he's like 21, 22, has a family. And he's talking about the former president. And he's like, I think he's a good man. I know he's done some bad things, but he's willing to stand up for us. And all he did was say, we're going to keep coal miners in business. We're not going to do this stuff. It wasn't necessarily politically correct. It wasn't intelligent. It wasn't science-based. It wasn't the truth, but it was what people wanted to hear. People who have felt oppressed because they're being attacked when they have no other option. That's what they have to do for work. There's nothing else.
Right.
And when
So-
they're feeling oppressed and unheard, there's people that are oppressed that they will not feel bad for.
Right.
Which is where you get all these like all lives matter type things, because people that think that they're oppressed and have no voice are like, why should I take up for you when you're not taking up for me?
Right.
Exactly.
It's like,
And that's how they pit people together.
yeah, it's the whole like, particularly people in my class, which is like, like we're I guess I would call us like, we barely made it to middle class, yay, kind of waffling, part, I like to call it the working poor. We'll never own a house in the city. We might own a house somewhere else if we move, but definitely not fucking here. And like we're just always struggling, right? Like it's just like we're like, if there's a big disaster, oh, we're fucked. It's just
Right.
how it is.
One
So one
devastating
of the
health
things that
decision and you're
happens,
done for. Yeah.
one of the things that happens is like my husband and I both were conservatives and Republicans, like to begin with. And then as time went on and my life experience went on and my social circles widened, I started to become more liberal, and he became a little more liberal with me. But then once Trump became president, he swung the other direction. So we're literally a house divided. And the bitterness that he has, like he's just like, I'm always working, I'm always struggling, fuck all these other people. Like it's just it's taken root in my own house. Like, and I get it, I understand what it is, I don't agree with it, I think it's fucking stupid. And it's taken root in my house, it's taken root in my family, it's taken root down the people down below. It's like it's just they have preyed upon our fears and our weaknesses and our
Yeah.
struggles.
I'm
and
telling
now
you
we're
guys,
like, fuck
like
everybody else.
you guys would be rich in Missouri.
Oh,
I know,
if they moved out there.
Let's all go to
Yeah,
Missouri.
like-
Let's make a compound.
No, like if you lived in like seriously, you should look at real estate in Missouri. I'm not kidding you. You can get like a 3-bedroom, 2-house for $56,000.
No way.
You guys would be rich in
Jesus.
Missouri.
Jesus. You do not want to know what I pay for rent. It's ridiculous. It's like New York City. Ridiculous.
I have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and I paid $65,000 for it.
Oh my God.
That's insane. I didn't know
There's
how
people's
much
trucks
better-
that are more expensive than that.
Yeah. I didn't even know
I
that.
own a
That's not
truck
an
that's more
insult.
expensive than that.
Okay, there are these ugly, ugly Crack-a-Jack box houses here, right? And they're going for like $1 million. And they're like 2 bedrooms, completely ran down, cracked foundation, but $1 million. I'm like, what the fuck?
Pocket change. Yeah, the neighborhood that I live in, we moved in here 18 years ago, whatever. We just happened to move into a neighborhood that we liked, and then the whole downtown area like freaking skyrocketed. I would not be able to afford a home where I live now. Like, mm-mm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird because when all the newer people moved in, I'm like, we're not the same. We came here before we moved here when it was affordable. We're not the same. But
Yeah.
yeah, in regard to back to Trump and the working hard and everything, talking about being a conservative, that's definitely how I grew up and was before. And I cannot have any conversations with my family. But when I started realizing things, I grew up with that whole like work hard, da da da, work hard, where all these people getting free rides and we're working hard. And I used to think they were actually upset about working hard and other people not. Not saying that was the case, but I'm thinking that's their mindset. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, you're just mad that you aren't in the bracket to get the help. I don't think it's the free healthcare that you're mad about. I don't think it's the assistance for anything. I think you're just mad that you're not getting it. Like, I don't think they're against any of that is what I'm trying to say. I think they're just bitter because they don't get it.
It depends, right? So some of them are, some of them aren't. Like the thing with us, like we were always like the working poor. So like when you go, oh, can I qualify for cheaper rent? You know, and look into that. Oh, you make $200
Too much
more a month than you ought to, which is not a lot of a buffer, by the way. $200 a month over here.
No buffer whatsoever. I could talk.
And they're like, good luck.
This,
And so we have struggled our entire life. Like that's how we are. Like, you know, and he makes a lot more than I do. Because we put him through college and not me. I fucking wish we did the opposite. But he makes, you know, more money and I make peanuts in comparison because I'm basically like, I make a whopping $18 an hour plus like whatever like bonuses I make, which is not a lot.
So you're fine.
What's that?
But I make $0 an hour, so you're fine. But maybe that's
I make trouble per hour. Let's go.
Yeah.
But like I'm just so tired of like I don't know, like I get on one hand I get this tired of like I'm tired of always working and struggling and always like any hiccup it's like, oh my god, like are we gonna make rent, or oh my god, something
Right.
comes out and it's really catastrophic and traumatizing, and you get frustrated and you're struggling and you look at your neighbor and you go like how does that work for you? But at the same time, like I just don't think it's helpful. I think that bitterness is so unhelpful and it doesn't help anything. What's really interesting is these people that I speak to that are voting one way or another, they throw up their hands and they go, everybody's corrupt. All politicians are corrupt. It doesn't matter what I do. There's always going to be a bad guy, a corruption, like they're just, it's just the lesser of the evils, and I may or may not vote. Or if I do vote, it's going to be for a president only, and I'm going to pretend like local elections don't matter. And you run into these people that are doing these things, and you go, but you're literally, every time we are reinstating oligarchy, every time. We are reinstating old wealth every time. And then when they said, well, Trump's going to be different, I'm like, how is he different?
Yeah.
How is he different? He comes from a wealthy family, oligarchy, still
And
the
how
same.
has he helped anybody yet? Like everybody's so like that, like you said, that mentality. He's gonna save us. Did he? Did he save you?
He made us worse.
So like
Trump removed the shame factor. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I've never been a Trump fan, but I am a fair-minded human being. And initially, some of the things, I'm talking way initially, okay? Like
before he was
before he was grabbing people by body parts, okay?
right.
Initially I thought, well, maybe there is something to this. Just maybe. He's not totally daft, and he's obviously, to some extent, intelligent enough to surround himself with people who know what they're talking about, because he does have some, he does have a measured amount of success. He knew how to deal with the mafia in New York City in the 80s when no one else could get anything built because of the outrageous, pricing and stuff that the mafia was throwing on them. Do what, honey?
Cool. Can you fix my area?
Tactics as, what'd you say, Holy?
Oh, I just said, cool. Can you fix my area? It's not the mafia, but it's foreign interests that are buying huge blocks of land and then building up apartments.
How much do
mafia
you
got
pay
into-
about how much do you pay a month in rent, Spackle, if you don't mind me asking?
$2,300 for 700 square feet.
Oh, that hurts me really bad, even though I know that feeling.
That's crazy.
It's ridiculous, right? I cry every day. Almost.
I'm crying with you.
So for $1,675 a month, you could have a 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 21 square foot house in the city that I work in.
I'm gonna run off now.
You could at least
Scott?
get a solid. You could at least get a solid $950 on the beach for that. I'm just saying.
What?
Like on the beach.
What?
You may only have stand-up showers and no bathtubs. But
And there's like all these mountains and lakes in the city that I work in, and all these dog trails and dog parks.
Arkansas
are
is
we
beautiful.
fighting
My
over
other
custody of
friend lives there.
Spackle now?
What's that?
I said, are we fighting over custody? It's like, come live with me. No, come live.
Listen. We could make a commune in the Ozarks.
Okay, I'm not moving to Arkansas. There's no way. There's no way. No, not happening. But if y'all want to come here and we can start a commune on the beach, mountains aren't that far away. Weed is legal. I'm just saying.
Okay, maybe then that. I was like, got that.
I don't know if I could go to another beach after these beaches. I don't know.
I'm a beach snob. My husband taught me that because, again, I didn't realize that I was. And I also didn't realize, I thought all beaches, I know they look different, but I didn't realize that white sand and green water was quite unique.
Yeah.
So when I came to beaches here, I'm like, what the hell is this shit?
It's awesome. That's what it is. I'm just kidding. The only white sand that we have is over by Coronado. Everything else is that like tan, coarser sand.
Yeah. I don't.
We have to check the beach. Literally, there's a beach report before we go because we have a huge problem with arthropods and jellyfish. Excuse me. We went one year, I guess it was about 3 years ago. I was so ready for a beach day. And we get to the beach and I kick my shoes off and I'm walking in the sand down. This little kid runs up to me. He goes, "There's sand lice in the water." I was like, what? And there was population of jellyfish had blown in and had all their babies, millions and millions and tens of millions of little tiny miniature jellyfish.
But you can't.
You got in the water. I mean, we got in the water. I was in the water up to my ankles and I was like, "No, I'm done." And my husband was in for a hot minute and he looked like he had a rash because he had been stung thousands of times. Right. And it just itches. It's not like, oh, I got stung. It's not like that. But like the water here can be beautiful and the water here can be like, ugh, terrible.
We had like seaweed. Well, I don't know if it was a true season, but we called it seaweed season in Florida. Like you'd go out there and it'd just be all like normal shit everywhere. And then
it's usually the heat from the ocean. If it gets too hot, the seaweed starts to like basically like leaves falling. Like the seaweed will break apart.
Yeah, we didn't go swimming up then, but we did go out in the water. I personally didn't, but I had a lot of friends who did. Would go out in the water right before a hurricane because that's the only time we actually had waves. I mean, like rideable waves. I don't even know if you could still call it surfing at that point. Totally stupid and absolutely dangerous, but yeah, in Florida. So,
Yeah.
I did it. Crazy. I can't believe in all the differences in pricing of houses. I didn't know there were still houses that were under 100,000.
Oh my goodness. There's an Instagram page that highlights houses from around the country that are less than $100,000. And some of the houses I see, I'm like, Duluth? What the Fargo? Like, I don't care that there's nothing there but cows and snow. For a 5,000 square foot house for $60,000, pack your bags. We're going.
I know.
Tennessee has some good pricing. I was looking at Tennessee the other day. I was like, because we have a friend that's trying to coax us to Tennessee, and I'm like, I don't know. But then I was like, oh God, these houses.
Depending on what part, you wouldn't be that far from me. So I don't know.
Our friends are looking at kind of outside of Nashville, so close to Nashville.
No, you'd be a day's drive, but I probably really wouldn't come visit you that much.
I know the feeling. Like, I have friends in Arizona, but I'm like, 6-hour drive. I have driving anxiety. I mean, you can come here, guys.
Right. Yeah, like Gatlinburg is about 2.5 hours. I think where someone was mentioning moving is about 3. I think we'd be about 3 hours from each other. I like where I live. It's just so cool, and my neighbor came home. There's so many different areas within like 2 or 3 hours of driving. It's neat. Go to Atlanta, Charlotte. Oh, sorry. This came up earlier when the closing arguments back to today, when I think it was the defense was playing an audio recording. I'm assuming it was from the body cam when Alec was saying, is anybody check on Buster? What about sending cops out to Buster? He's in Columbia. And I'm like, Columbia? I thought he was in Rock Hill, which is near Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm not saying that he was there that night, but that's like 2 or 3 hours away. And I doubt that Alec like misspoke or anything like that, but just because
Who's Buster?
Buster is the surviving son.
Okay, because some people have been pointing at Buster a lot. And where was Buster during all that?
Supposedly in Rock Hill, where he lived with his girlfriend. But there is no way in hell that he drove and was in the Columbia area by the time that police and everything arrived. That Charlotte to Columbia is probably at least a good 2 hours. And then he had another hour and a half or so to where his dad was and where his mom and brother were murdered. So I just find that weird. It was just one of those things that I'm like, that I picked up on from the audio. It's another thing where why would you say that incorrectly? Sorry, I'm not looking at.
I mean, part of me wonders because, I'm always kind of careful with speculation for this, so I'm a little hesitant to even speculate, but the fact that there were 2 weapons used was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't think he was there. I know it seems odd because of the 2 different weapons, and it's highly unlikely for the same person to use 2 different weapons. I don't think anybody else was there at the time. I think, and I'm not the one that first mentioned this, I read this somewhere. I was like, that seems very likely. As they've talked about on a property, You ride around the side by side, the golf cart, whatever. You typically in that environment have a gun with you just because of wildlife running up on you. Um, and it was said in other testimony that like Paul would typically have a gun in his vehicle or again going on the golf cart, riding around. What I'm getting at is I think Alec brought a weapon with him because it wouldn't be suspicious. Brought a weapon with him down from the house to the kennels because they rode on the golf cart down there. And Paul also brought his. So again, it's that whole like, look at this opportunity standing right in front of me. I feel like that's what Alec had that night. Like either the first gun that he used jammed and, oh, I've got another weapon right there. And hey, that works out for me also because now it looks like there's more than one shooter. But I personally don't think there was another person there with him during the shootings. I think he called his brothers on the way to his mom's. And I think especially John Marvin was the cleanup crew because basically he admitted that he was, but just in different context. He's basically telling on himself while he's on the stand, just like Alec did, but telling the events in telling the truth about the events as they happened, but giving a different reason as to why the events happened. I don't care who you are. I don't think you're going down to whether the police release the crime scene or not. I don't think you're going down to where your sister-in-law and nephew who you love and just start cleaning up the area. Not unless you're trying to cover something.
Right.
And that family is used to covering up for each other. No problem, Pickle.
Yeah, I think the son was just becoming too big of a embarrassment.
And too much of a liability, too much of a financial issue. And again, similar to what was brought up with the boat crash and Mallory Beach's body, the fact that Maggie got in the back of the truck of one of the other parents and was like, what if her body's never found? And they're kind of like, what the fuck? Why are you saying this? If you don't have a body, then you don't have criminal charges. If Paul's dead, the criminal case disappears. Not even a sympathy issue. It legally disappears.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do about that because there's no one to prosecute.
Right. So that part of it's gone. So now he's been able to all these years, rob from Peter to pay Paul. And I'm thinking he probably thought he was buying time to fix, so to speak, the financial thing. So even if they looked into it and saw what he did, oh, I've already paid people back. You heard the defense say that to many of the witnesses on the stand, like, yeah, but the victims got paid back. He said it to Gloria Satterfield's son, like, but you've been compensated, haven't you? Number one, nobody was compensated by Alec. And number two, that's also not the point. The point is still that you stole from somebody. You can still be charged even though you gave it back. But Alec's not the one that gave it back. His law partner.
Yeah, I can't just go grab my neighbor's truck and be like, I brought it back.
Right. Like a week later, but hey.
So there's other people that have gone missing or dead around this family too.
Yeah. Do you really want to ask me? Because I'll give you the quickest rundown I possibly can. I think I might even have my notes here. In 2015, a young man named Stephen Smith was found in the middle of a road one night. State trooper arrived on the scene, deemed it like foul play, death by blunt force trauma. I am fairly certain it was the coroner who wrote differently and said it was a hit and run accident. And the state trooper called, I'm saying coroner, it may not have been the coroner, but for the sake of time and me looking up details, state trooper was like, hey, that's not what I saw. That's not what I wrote in my report. There's no evidence to a hit and run. There was no like car debris, things like his shoes being still on his feet, loosely tied. Again, I've learned that, I guess, when people get hit by cars, their shoes fly off. Didn't know that before. Wish I did know that. But a lot of different things that were not pointing towards a hit and run. Coroner was basically like, hey, mind your business. Again, because of the ties with law enforcement and different things, it wasn't looked into any further in that regard. Fast forward 2015, the way this ties to the family is for two different reasons. During that investigation, before it pretty much dead ended, Buster's name, the surviving son, got brought up a lot in regard to perhaps he was present at the time or responsible for Stephen Smith's death. There are rumors that they were a secret couple. I don't believe it to be true. Personally, I believe that Stephen was probably helping Buster with his homework. People were probably making fun, like, hey, Buster, you blah, blah, blah. And he probably got really angry about that and maybe, allegedly, in my opinion. And again, small town people in a southern
So
town.
basically, you're saying that maybe it was a talented Mr. Ripley situation?
Yes.
Have you ever seen that movie? It's a fucking fantastic movie.
Yes. Years ago. Jude Law, isn't that who played in it?
Yeah, Matt Damon.
Matt Damon. Okay.
Yeah.
Matt Damon. I can never say his name and not say Matt Damon.
But Patricia, what's her name? Highsmith, I think. She had a series of those talented Mr. Ripleys. Like there's a
Really?
series of it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Very, very Hitchcock like.
Cool. It's right up my alley. 2018, the housekeeper at the same property, Moselle property, the way that it was described on the 911 call is that their dogs tripped her as she was coming up the steps and she fell and hit her head. Maggie and Paul can be heard in the 911 call. They both seem very inconvenienced that they even have to make this call.
Wow.
There's a lot of rumors and theories and speculation around that, to include perhaps there was a updated home insurance policy taken out just weeks before that happened, because then she didn't die that day, but she died like 3 weeks later in the hospital. Gloria did. And Alec told her boys, like, we're gonna basically sue me, home insurance, sue me so we can have you guys taken care of, whatever. Well, he stole all of the settlement money and never gave them any.
Wow.
Then 2019 is when the boat crash happened, when Paul was driving the boat. And then Mallory Beach passed. And they are, I believe they have current charges. Alec, his dad at the time, his dad has since passed, so the one that was a former solicitor, and Randolph, the brother that is an attorney and still works for the law firm, were all up at the hospital, kind of like intimidating witnesses, saying that they represented them and different things. All the kids that were in the accident, I say kids, they were like 18, 19. So I guess legally they're adults, but to me they're kids. So Alec's other brother, John Marvin, I keep calling him the Olsen Murdaugh because that's who he reminds me of. He testified. Both the sheriff and the DNR officer, especially the DNR officer that was ahead of that investigation of the boat crash, are very good friends with John Marvin, Alex's brother. That night of the boat crash, they didn't let Mallory Beach's family, well, not just that night, the entirety of searching for her body, her body was found a week later. They did not allow Mallory's family to go anywhere near where the boat crashed or go looking down at the waters, nothing. But Maggie, Paul, and Randolph, and I believe John Marvin were allowed to go.
Wow. Wow.
They were allowed to take the boat. So they took the crime scene.
Whoa.
So when it comes to, like, again, why I'm kind of so, like, emotional about this is we're uncovering how all of the corruption, yes, as was said before, there is corruption everywhere and we know about it, but now we're actually getting to see it and see the inside of it and see who's doing what. And again, because of all of this and the salaciousness of it, it is on the national spotlight. So these people, they can't hide their connections anymore or the shady shit they've done, or people, internet sleuths are piecing things together. Technically, Mandy Matney did it first, but hey, they're unable to do things hidden anymore. I think, again, like I said before, Alex's testimony was damning to have him found guilty. Hey, Stina. Oh my God. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I cried on here. Oh my God. I'm going to regret and be like, wow, you're so embarrassing tomorrow. But what was I talking about? The connections and everything. SLED is everywhere throughout the state. Again, it's South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. I don't know who has jurisdiction of what in terms of if there are different SLED units, but as far as I understand, I could be incorrect. I have to ask my husband more about this. But SLED officers aren't necessarily beholden to a district or a county or whatever. And a lot of people who work for SLED also work for the National Guard in my state. Some part-time senators are also people who work with or for law enforcement or for solicitors' offices, or it's all just kind of intertwined. And I just believe the whole thing is being exposed. Let me bring to, I know I've mentioned it before. Oh, got you back on there. Bowen Turner. Let me pull this shit up too.
You're cutting out for me.
I'm cutting out?
Yeah.
Might be my cord. Thank you.
And Spackle says she fell again.
Yeah, I think I got her back in.
I'm back. Thank you, though.
Okay.
I didn't have to make a drink this time.
I know. I even read that comment and I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, yep. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Not registering, add to stream. Let me see if I can present this. This occurred in, no, not TikToks. In Orangeburg, South Carolina, which I'm going to tell myself all over the place. I have an ex-boyfriend who's in prison.
You don't need to share all that.
Hey, I'm going to drop down. I got to get to bed.
All right. Thank you for coming up here.
Yeah, thanks for having me up. Night, guys.
Bye. Okay. So, Mandy also reported.
This person looks charming.
To him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's being sarcastic.
but not the mugshots that they originally showed. Not in regard to BuzzFeed, but like the state of South Carolina. They were showing much more put together and younger and less creepy photos of him. And then
That's
national
fun.
media was like, no, I think this is him. But yeah, so 19-year-old South Carolina resident who was sentenced to 5 years probation after being accused of assaulting a teenager had his probation revoked and ordered to register as a sex offender after being arrested for publicly disorderly conduct. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the synopsis, if you will, is that he is continuing, he has a certain MO, which is getting drunk. Maybe there's like out in the woods partying with like teenagers, which is what rural people do. I laugh because same. It's funny sometimes in regional things, I tell people things and they're like, "You did what?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got in the back of a pickup truck on New Year's and tried to shoot deer out of the back of a pickup truck." What? While we're all drinking. That's not normal? No, that's not normal. Oh, okay. Um, but kids partying out in the woods, he would get drunk, and that's when alleged assaults would occur. And it was the same MO multiple times. He would be arrested, and as far as I can remember in my understanding, he wouldn't either he would make bond or not even have a bond. He basically wouldn't sit in jail while he was waiting to be tried. And on two other occasions, he would be arrested for the same allegations. So one of the podcasts that Mandy did, she got wind of this. I think some of the victims or the victims' families came to her and was like, hey, can you do something about this? Can you bring attention to this? Because the person who represented him was, I think he no longer does, was also, yep, there it is, Senator Brad Hutto, a powerful Democrat in South Carolina. He represented him. So it was another like politician, the law doesn't apply to me type people, because Paul, the kid that was murdered, who Alec was just found guilty of, he never was actually arrested for his criminal charges for the boat case. In fact, his mugshot is him in a like nice polo shirt in the courthouse. He didn't even necessarily have to make bond. He never went to jail, which anybody else would have been booked. He wasn't. And it's similar to this kid who, while awaiting trial, he's supposed to be on house arrest, violated it dozens of times, visiting golf courses, going out of state to Georgia. Just a lot of things that would never have happened had it been anybody else. So one of the victims in this case, she again was under such scrutiny from the town of Orangeburg of how dare you accuse this nice Christian boy, family boy, of doing anything, that after years of being harassed by it, again, she thought the only way out of feeling this way and being under the scrutiny and harassment was to end her life. This kid, while he's on house arrest, visited her grave. So not only is he not supposed to leave his home, he goes to visit the grave of the person he allegedly assaulted. And this somehow is not an issue to anybody. So Oh, and the Hutto, I don't know if it's going to say it here. I believe her first name was Dallas. Where is it? The girl who passed away. And again, there it is. Dallas Stoller. Her case was dropped because Hutto and I think the judge, again, there's so much detail. It's been 2 years of like, oh my God, are you serious? This. It's like a freaking crazy statewide soap opera. It's hard to keep up with everything. But I believe he was quoted as saying, well, I mean, she passed away. There's no reason to proceed with these charges. But he's alive, and he's the one that is accused of committing this crime and continuing to be accused of committing similar crimes to multiple people while awaiting trial. So, yes, the laundry list of crimes, suspicious acts including adjacent to the Murdaughs, should be shining a light on the sheer amount of privilege they've been allowed to enjoy. Agreed.
The guy Alec, right? Alec or Alex?
So he pronounces it himself, Alec. It is spelled Alex, like Alex. I think it's just how they pronounce it.
Okay, so he looks like sort of like a really messed up version of Joffrey to me from Game of Thrones, but like grown up and old. And he just looks stiff and psychopathic
Yeah.
and like inbred.
Yeah. Yeah. They all kind of look like each other for sure. Like
It's really odd.
all the Murdaugh men have a distinct, and to me not attractive. I'm not just saying that because I think they're horrible people, but just I don't know. They're odd looking birds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see how anybody would find it attractive, but hey. Everybody has their things.
There's somebody for somebody. There's somebody for everybody,
Right.
especially if there's money.
True.
Well, that is just madness. Like, and I mean, we've heard about these sort of situations, and I think there's always like corruption and power and stuff like that. But the power in a smaller town is something that we've heard about, but we rarely see the inside of so much.
Yes. And it's fascinating to see, and also it's satisfying to see. Again, I feel like I'm losing the word that I'm looking for, but again, like, oh, I'm not crazy. I'm not making this shit up. Like, I'm not reading too much into this. I'm tired now and I'm losing the
That's all
right
right.
words, but you just get to see the inside and it's insane. And it's kind of scarier than you could imagine.
Well,
It's scary to think there's so much and so many people tied to things, and I think they all have things on each other, and that's why they cover, because they all know where each other's bodies are buried.
yeah. So they're just stuck with each other. It's very fascinating too to be able to kill a loved one and probably have your family help, which is just
Yeah.
madness. Like it's just I don't know, it's unthinkable for most people.
Yeah. If I were any person married into that family, I would be so afraid right now. Not only because of Alec himself, but hearing John Marvin on the stand, like it was my thought as well. Oh my gosh, these people don't really know how he is. Oh my gosh, like they were figuring him out or finding him out and piecing everything together. And then after hearing him testify and make the same stupid excuses and the same far-fetched explanations as to why he was the one to find Maggie's phone, and how he claims that he used Buster's like find a phone to find Maggie's phone, and it started pinging. So he and Buster went down to the kennels to show law enforcement, which I'm like not understanding, because I thought he said the crime scene was closed and cleared by then. So why would law enforcement still be there? But whatever. So he brought it down to law enforcement. It was like, hey, we found Maggie's phone. Here it is. Here it's on the find a phone thing. And he claims and testified that the police were like, we'll deal with that later. So he's like, man, I just didn't think that was the right thing. And, I would think we got to find justice for Maggie and all this stuff. So I took the golf cart down and found it. And I'm like, none of that makes any sense. None of that makes any sense. I believe enough of law enforcement that were not directly tied to this family had showed up on the scene. So I don't think at that point, maybe that first night, and maybe we're the first few people, perhaps there were a chance of, covering for the family. But I think it had become too big at that point for anybody to feel comfortable, or even for that to be a thought. Like, oh, it's the Murdaughs. Let's not do anything. Let's not ruffle feathers too much. And yes, it is pronounced Buford. Yeah, don't ask me. I didn't grow up here. I don't make the rules.
That's French, I think. Anything where that's like a "bu" like that with the T. I think that's
Right.
a word.
They pronounce things differently around here. Again, the town that I live in, Greenville, they call it Greenville.
Like Louisville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's only, that's because of their accent, not because of how it's truly pronounced.
I don't know. They get upset though when I go Louisville. They're like Louisville.
Yeah.
Louisville.
No, I
Louisville.
mean Greenville. I think Louisville is, but Greenville isn't. Because nobody corrects anyone if you say Greenville. They're like, yeah, Greenville. It's like, are we saying the same thing? I don't know.
Maybe people from Louisville are just obnoxious. I'm just kidding.
Probably. I'm not from there. I don't care. All right. Well, I'm getting tired. It's about 10 o'clock here. So I'm probably going to wake up tomorrow morning and be like, is this shit for real? Oh, and next I'm very much wondering, that was my last little thing. I don't know if I tie back to, but during the investigation at Moselle, when Maggie and Paul were murdered, they found evidence that tied to the death of Stephen Smith, that guy who was found in the room.
Wow.
Yeah.
They might be figuring out more shit then.
Yep. And that mom, she is just so sweet, so brokenhearted. That lady called the police for years. It was like, any updates, any updates, any updates. And pardon me, sure, if there's an active investigation, the police can't say everything. And I don't think she was expecting that. But she didn't even know, like, is it still under investigation? Is it closed? Are they like, she didn't want the exact information. She just wanted to know, has there been any, forward motion? Are you any closer to figuring out what happened? And she would get no calls back. So to think and hope that maybe she'll get answers and justice, I'm hoping that's the case. And that's why it's even a little bit more emotional that they found him guilty tonight. Still can't believe I'm saying those words. That perhaps it'll be more likely for whomever is charged with the crime, if evidence is brought forth, that they can bridge the gap and see that, yeah, maybe it's likely that they also did this, or another one of his family members did this. But
it's a lot.
hey, Stina, I'm actually signing off because I'm tired and I feel like my adrenaline high is like, yeah, boom. But I probably will go live for sentencing. They said 9:30 tomorrow, so everyone will be in school by then. So I probably will. I'm still half tempted to like, how many hours of sleep can I get? And can I convince my husband to watch the kids so I can go down there? Will I even get in the courthouse? Probably not. So
I'm guessing he's gonna get life, but what do you think? Do they like execute over the shit?
I don't know, because there's been recent controversy as to, we still like shoot people to death here. That's still a thing.
Okay, so I have a theory that is not the worst way to die, and I have an argument for that, but we're not
Yeah.
gonna get into that.
I don't know. I know I believe there was a pause on lethal injection here for a while, or was that everywhere due to
It's
like,
everywhere because like all they can. So what they know is that lethal injection freezes you from having any response that you can notice, but they think that it might be like a burning sensation that's through you during the time, and it's not a good thing.
yeah, it's not. It's the point, isn't it? I get it. Humane, whatever. But I don't know. I know he's going to get minimum 30 years for it. That's what the judge said tonight, that's the minimum. So, and then he's got all the financial crimes coming up.
That's the other thing too. Is he going to be forced to pay some sort of restitution financially to people?
I don't know if he can. He has no money.
No, I mean like the state. Or does he not have any money now?
No.
Oh, okay.
Oh, 30 years to life for each murder, 5 years consecutive for weapons, if it's life. Yeah. And then
that's
I don't
life for sure.
see how he's not going to be found guilty on any of his financial crimes for two reasons. One of his partners in crime, Russell Lafitte, was convicted of all 6 charges this past February. He hasn't been sentenced yet. I don't even know if sentencing has been scheduled. So that's why I was very floored that they're like, all right, we can do the sentencing tonight, but no, we're going to wait for the victims. And when's everybody ready? Tomorrow morning at 9:30? All right. I'm like, oh, I don't think I've ever heard of sentencing being that quick. But, and then the second thing why I think he'll be convicted of the criminal crimes other than he did it was that he admitted to it on the stand. He's on record for saying he did all of them. So I feel like there shouldn't even be a trial for that, honestly. Yeah, he's going to die in prison for all the different charges. Yeah. And honestly, I think if he had not been found guilty for these murders, that there would be, although I think it would be very slim, I think there could have been a way he could weasel his way out of the financial crimes.
Well, I just want to thank you for, covering this in a respectful way. And
It's people.
And also it was a meaningful way in some ways because you are familiar more with things and how things are. And for us, like, I mean, I'm in a whole different, I don't know, I guess culture in a way, which is,
Yeah.
we're obviously Americans, America, but I mean, like it is a different environment being in a big giant city than it is a smaller town, and just kind of seeing all this
Right.
has been very interesting. So I appreciate your take. I'm
Oh,
going to
thank
go
you.
because my dogs are getting rowdy, but thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming up here. All right, everybody, I'm going to bed because I got to get up in the morning and see a bitch go to jail for the rest of his life. Yes, because Alex stole it. I really want to make a TikTok of one of Taylor Swift's new songs about like getting ready for, or I'm dressing for revenge, and make it with Jeannie on there. with the whole he stole it, and then someone reported his white collar crimes to the FBI. I don't know how the patience for all that, but it's an idea. I think it'd be beautiful. All right. Good night. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here and not thinking I'm crazy for crying over this, because I did, obviously. All right. Hope you guys have a good night. Get good rest, because we're going to see Alec get sentenced tomorrow.